Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Travellers arriving from the Schengen area will be subject to mandatory quarantine unless they provide a negative COVID-19 test result. And people arriving from outside the Schengen area will be quarantined without exception, regardless of any tests they might have. However, it might be possible to leave quarantine following a negative COVID test taken in Poland. With the numbers of new cases of COVID-19 rising in Poland, as well as in most countries of the European Union, the government had to tighten the rules for travellers.
Pasażerowie, którzy przylatują ze strefy Schengen.
Passengers arriving from the Schengen area may present a negative test result of a test done 48 hours before crossing the border. Then, such a test is considered valid by border guards and the person is released from quarantine. At the airport, it is also possible to perform such a test before the control zone, which will make it easier for passengers to avoid quarantine.
Takiego testu.
On land crossings, border guards will check whether travellers have an up-to-date PCR or antigen test. After entering Poland, convalescents who completed isolation not later than 6 months before crossing the border, as well as people vaccinated against COVID-19, will also be exempt from quarantine. We asked travellers what they think about the restrictions. People do not follow the rules. They avoid masks, take them off. I was rather sceptical but surprised. People maintain their distance so passengers can feel safe. I was travelling by rail last year and some cars were full while the adjacent ones remained empty. This year there are up to 3 people per compartment.
A drugie były puste.
The Polish Ministry of Health announced today 32,874 new confirmed cases of COVID-19. The ministry also announced a further 653 deaths. Since the beginning of the epidemic in Poland, 2,320,000 people have been infected with the virus and more than 53,000 patients have died. In Poland, over 6 million vaccinations have been carried out. Over 4 million people have received the first dose and over 2 million the second dose. The European Commission has decided to refer Poland to the Court of Justice of the European Union. The official announcement states that this is about protecting the independence of Polish judges. The European Commission also decided to ask the ECJ to apply the so-called interim measures pending a final judgment in the case.
La Commission a décidé de saisir.
The European Commission decided to refer the case against Poland to the Court of Justice of the European Union. This is a key step in the infringement procedure of a member state regarding the Polish Act on the Judiciary, which entered into force in February 2020. According to the European Commission, the Polish law on the judiciary undermines the independence of judges and is inconsistent with the principle of the supremacy of European Union law. Therefore, Brussels argues that the Act prevents Polish courts, through disciplinary actions, from applying some provisions of European Union law and referring questions for a preliminary ruling to the European Court of Justice. According to the European Commission, this is manifested through the actions of the disciplinary chamber of the Supreme Court, which Brussels accused of lack of independence. Because of this situation, European Union officials referred to the Court of Justice of the European Union an application for interim measures, including, inter alia, the suspension of the provisions relating to the operation of the disciplinary chamber of the Supreme Court and the annulment of the decisions made so far. The Family 500 Plus programme, which is a pillar of the budget for half of Polish families, has now turned 5 years old. The 3 main objectives of the programme are to improve the demographic situation, reduce poverty and invest in the family. I am saving this money for my child. Sometime it will be helpful for holidays or something like that. Extracurricular activities, English language, swimming pool. For a nursery. For 5 years the Polish state has been giving the parents of each child 500 zloty a month. The money is due for every child legally residing in the country, so it includes migrant workers and the nationals of other EU countries. 5 years ago, 500 zloty was 1/3 of the minimum salary. Today, 500 zloty is 1/5 of the minimum salary in Poland. The promise of such a cash handout was part of the election programme of Law and Justice in 2015. Opponents thought it was unrealistic. However, since April 1st, 2016, the programme has cost over 141 billion zloty. The money has gone to 6,600,000 children. Many parents went on vacation with their children for the first time in their lives. Research shows that the funds from the 500 Plus programme are well invested for the future of the younger generation, education, extracurricular activities. According to research by the Infomonitor Economic Information Bureau, for half of Polish families, the Family 500 Plus programme is a pillar of the budget. For 17%, it determines the financial to be or not to be. It is very helpful for mothers who cannot work. My 500 plus goes straight to the account for my children, or I spend it on clothes and toys for them. 5 years ago it was unimaginable. Now the programme has taken on very well and is working in the very difficult situation of the coronavirus pandemic. We need this money. Most of it we spend on teaching. For 30 years, Poland has had a negative birth rate. In addition, after joining the European Union, millions of young people left for rich Western countries. The 500 Plus programme was designed to encourage young Polish families to have children. For the first 2 years of the 500 Plus programme, the number of births grew. However, from February 2020 to January 2021, fewer than 350,000 were born in Poland. This is the lowest 12 months result since World War II. According to the ministry, families will start to fulfil the programme assumptions after decades. In fact, 350,000 children were born, but throughout the entire period of the 500 Plus programme, 1.9 million children. Looking at the decreasing number of women of childbearing age, these parameters are still higher than when there were more women of childbearing age. The 500 Plus programme has reduced poverty among families with children. Earlier it was estimated that some 10% of Polish children lived in poverty. Today, the proportion is about 4%. And there's another twist in the continuing story of a New Yorker magazine article stating that Poland as a state and Poles as a nation are responsible for murdering 3 million Jews in the Holocaust. The author of this article is Masha Gessen, a Russian and American journalist of Jewish origin and an LGBT activist. After strong statements from the director of the Auschwitz Museum and the American Jewish Congress, the article was slightly modified. To help understand the gravity of the issue, the Polish ambassador to the United States of America, Professor Piotr Wilczek, invited Mrs. Gessen to Poland and to the Auschwitz Museum, while the president of the World Jewish Congress, Ronald S. Lauder, said that such historically false characterization should not have found its way into the pages of the New Yorker or any other publication. The Polish ambassador to the United States, Piotr Wilczek, wrote in a statement, "This must be stated very clearly. There was no systematic complicity in the Holocaust, neither by the Polish nation nor by the Polish state. Only one country bears responsibility for the state-sponsored persecution and murder of 6 million Jews and millions of other non-Jews, Nazi Germany." David Harris, CEO of the American Jewish Committee, in referring to the defamatory subtitle in the Discuss piece, stated bluntly on social media, "Germany, and Germany alone, was responsible for the Nazi death camps from Auschwitz to Treblinka." The column's insistence that Poland is attempting to limit the freedom to conduct Holocaust research is also untrue. In fact, just as with the aforementioned historical sites, Holocaust research is funded in a large part by Poland's national budget. The article falsely claims that some scholars were prosecuted by the government and that the court announced them guilty, referring to a recent court case. Yet it fails to explain that it was not a criminal case but civil litigation between a private individual, Mrs. Filomena Leszczynska, who's 80 years old, and 2 scholars who slandered a member of her family, falsely accusing him of aiding Germans in murdering Jews. Despite sharp criticism, the absurd Masha Gessen story is still on the New Yorker website. And that's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.